It's 7:30 p.m. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Here.
Becker?
Here.
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Lohman?
Here.
Director Slater-Carter is not present at this time.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. For the president's statement tonight, I'm going to take a moment for something that thankfully is quite unusual. Last week, as many people know, there was an accident in Moss Beach that took the life of one of the residents of Moss Beach, someone well known to many of us, Harold Herman. What may not be quite so well known is that to compound that tragedy, our crew and the crew of one of our contractors was working at the site and were spared by a tree that stopped the oncoming truck. And so for the people in the community, I think it's important to know that this isn't, I think, on the mind every day of the crews that go out, but these are real risks that everyone who works outdoors alongside roadways faces. And I want to commend our staff and crew for the work that they do and how they are caring for each other in this time of tragedy. And I'd like to start the meeting with a moment of silence in memory of Harold and out of respect for him and the contributions that he's made to this community. He's well known by many people for the very giving, community-minded spirit that he had. It was a distinguishing mark, and I know that his family and his loved ones and his friends are all heartbroken over this. So let's take a moment of silence before we resume. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any oral comments from members? Oh, Clemens, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I also wanted to thank our staff for reacting the way they did in this situation. They had they were unfortunate to be there, but of course they were trying to help as best as they can. This is not the first time that they've been in such a situation. About 2 years ago, one of our operators was T-boned on 8th Street. Now, I think it has become public that this is somewhat personal to me. Harald was a good friend of mine. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Harald for everything he did for this community. That's how most of you know him, but also just for whatever he did, wherever he could help, he helped. It's very evident. I know his friends since some time. I know a lot of stories where he reached out. He was always the giver. He was always the one that reached out and tried to help wherever he can. Now, the accident, again, is not the first one that our crew witnessed or has been part of. So this is becoming somewhat personal. I want to go back to some of the very last conversations I had with Harald because they were over the safety of Highway 1. The Connect the Coast Side study was just approved. And there is some improvements, some safety improvements that are planned for the stretch from pretty much Devil's Slide towards Half Moon Bay on the highway. And so I really think there's something very evident here that comes out of the conversations that I had with Harald. That's really the time that it takes for these improvements to be implemented. We both we grew up very close to each other, had a similar upbringing in Europe. And in Europe, in urban centers, there is always a speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour, 35 miles per hour. Pretty much in every urban zone, there are some exceptions to that for roads that are clearly separated. But in this case, I think, we don't know how the accident happened fully. We don't understand it yet. But Harald and I were both baffled by the fact that there are certain sections on Highway 1 where is high pedestrian traffic, a lot of driveways in and out of the highway, intersections. We all know how long it takes to wait on an intersection to pull out onto Highway 1. But some of these areas have a speed limit set of 50 miles per hour. And that clearly does not make any sense. Along Surfers Beach, one of Northern California's most accessible wave that is very consistent. It's pretty much always on. There's always something to look. It does not make any sense to drive 50 miles per hour along Surfers Beach. We're going to have the same situation essentially, I'm going to say, on Main Street in Moss Beach. And I say Main Street because that's what Highway 1 really is. We have a sheriff's office, a post office, a taqueria, a store, little shopping malls, all directly adjacent to Highway 1. It does not make any sense on those stretches to drive faster than 35. And I am really baffled by the fact that this is the case. And I'm just going to say, if you guys see a slow car in the future, that's going to be me. I hope everyone is going to be just voluntarily starting to drive slow where it absolutely makes sense. Harald was a common sense guy, and this is a common sense topic, and I think we should pick this up from here. We can't resolve this situation anymore. This already happened, but we can prevent anything going forward. Our staff was almost hit. Again, not for the first time. I think this district has to take a stand on the safety of Highway 1 for our citizens and for our staff. And then once again, thank you, Harald. You're on mute, Scott.
Sorry. Thank you, Clemens. Greg, I see your hand.
Well, Clemens said it well. And I viewed Harold as a friend also, although I didn't know him as long as Clemens, but we worked together on many, many issues. I will tell you that the speed limit on Highway 1 is going to be commented on in an upcoming MCC letter. And we'll see what happens. I will tell you that it's been tough to get Caltrans to make changes, but I would endorse that we have to reduce that speed. Did you mention there have been community members, I'm sorry I got here late, who have talked about building a memorial for Harold? So Clemens is mute, but I am
Go ahead.
exploring with the county. I'm exploring with the county, both parks and DPW benches and what other kinds of memorials might be appropriate. And, you know, we'll look and see what's involved, what kind of contributions we can get, but that will be discussed in coming days. So I don't want to belabor the point, but Harold was just a great guy. And it really is a tragedy for his family. I mean, it's a tragedy for the community because he was such an asset. If I could change the topic, did you all notice the grand jury report about are we ready for the big one, the water districts in San Mateo County? They forgot to include Montara. They produced a grand jury report looking at earthquake impacts. I'll send it to you if you haven't seen it. But I think they at least should have talked to you, and I'm betting that somebody will wake up and ask you the same questions they've been asking other districts about earthquake preparedness. Clemens, did you want me to comment any more than that on the grand jury report?
No, I wanted to maybe add just a little bit and confirm what you're saying here. The grand jury report was sent out to all county water agencies in San Mateo County. I'm a little bit baffled why we didn't get it. There may be a good reason behind it. One of them could be that this district is a water and sanitary district. We're not a county water agency. But we, of course, provide water services, and everything applies. All the concerns of the grand jury, essentially about emergency preparedness, apply to us as well. Who picked up on this, really, who was criticized, was the County Office of Emergency Services. And I have to say, they immediately picked up on this and talked to us and ensured that we are participating in their preparedness programs. And we just actually had a tabletop exercise that we went through yesterday. And interestingly enough, most water agencies were participating in this tabletop exercise of a tsunami event that could happen out here. So you're correct. I believe we were forgotten in this. And it may be worth pointing this out to the grand jury. I know the comment phase actually is over. Thank you.
Okay. I'm seeing Jim next in order. So Jim, with your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to, Clemens got counseling for his staff, and I think that was a great thing to do. I think that was absolutely appropriate. And I want to, we should thank the staff for their response at the accident, for their cooperation. And then again, Clemens is taking action to get appropriate counseling. And I agree about the speed limit. Yeah, I mean, it's just even the 45 coming into Montara from the south. If you go 45, you completely anger people behind you who want to go 55 or 65, and it's just crazy. So I think that we should maybe put that on the agenda to take a stand at least and ask for appropriate action on speed limits. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Pippin?
You're on mute, Pippin.
There we go. Sorry. I just wanted to add a quick comment to that speed limit issue. If you go up and down the coast on Highway 1, in similar towns in Oregon, for example, I understand it's a different jurisdiction, not Caltrans, but frequently the speeds are 30 or even 25 miles per hour. in similar type of communities. Another thing to note that we maybe should be writing letters to the CHP. In Oregon, the signs don't say speed limit. They simply say speed. And if you go 26, it's a revenue source. They ticket everybody. You don't go 26 when it says 25. So I just want to add that comment.
All right. Thank you. I don't see any more hands raised. Let's go to the consent agenda. Does any board member wish to pull any items for discussion? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to
So a
approve.
motion from Peter, and can we have a second, please? I'll second it. So moved and
Mute button off.
okay. It's been moved and seconded to pass the consent agenda as listed in the agenda. Tracy, can we have a roll call vote?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 4-0. Old habits. I almost called for all the ayes. For the members of the audience, because we're on this telecommunications style meeting, we are required by the Brown Act to take roll call votes for every vote. Just a little difference. Okay, let's go to new business. Item 1, review and possible action concerning remote meetings during emergency conditions under Government Code Section 54953 of the Brown Act. Speaking of the Brown Act.
Thanks, Scott. So yeah, this is our standard item that we have been up since several months that allows us to hold this meeting tonight, as well as any other meeting in October via teleconference. We would have to bring this up again, the first meeting in November. So we're looking to adopt a resolution that authorizes the remote teleconference meetings. Thank you.
I make that. I like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved by Jim, seconded by Peter. Could we have a roll call, please, Tracy?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman.
Okay, resolution passes 4-0. Item 2, review and possible action concerning review of Recology 2023 solid waste rate increase.
Yeah, thank you. So this is also a standard item. It comes up once a year per our franchise agreement. Recology of the Coast provides us with financial information around this time each year, and is with that requesting usually requesting a rate increase. It really depends on the numbers that they send over. Last year, we had a cost-based calculation. This year, we have an index-based calculation. So there's only certain indices that cost of living, et cetera, that are looked at and used for the calculation. And so this year, or in this year's process for the calendar year 2023, Recology is requesting a 5.61% increase due to essentially the cost that the increase in cost that Recology has to provide the services. That would mean that the standard 32-gallon waste container rate would increase from currently $36.22 to $38.25. Now, every year we are asking our accountant, RVE, Peter Medina, to look at the numbers and just double check it and tell us in a report what he sees. And every year I'm sharing the most important numbers ahead of Peter. So I'm taking the highlights away. but I'm going to turn it over to Peter and essentially tell us what you saw in the numbers and if we can comfortably proceed with this rate increase. We also, just before I conclude, we have a Prop 218 notice drafted. We would like to get approval for the Prop 218 process tonight so that we can actually, we have to send it out pretty much tomorrow to the printer so that we have everything ready for the planned December 1 public hearing that would then, we go through the usual process where all customers essentially can protest the rate increase, and we would at the December hearing look at the number of protests received, decide if that rate increase essentially proceeds. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Peter.
Thank you, Clemens. Yes, in terms of highlights, the attachment kind of lays out that Exhibit E. What you guys don't see is basically it's quite an involved spreadsheet with all the tabs going back and forth and the various calculations. What I do essentially is basically verify the prior year and verify that there are, anyway, that works with spreadsheets, that there, copy and paste errors can happen. Check those, just kind of the easy stuff, but then really kind of go back in and verify that the indices that were agreed upon were actually utilized. So going into the BLF, pulling down the various items which are captured here and say, okay, yes, these are in fact the correct figures and the percentage increase as far as using the prior year numbers. That all ties out. Going through the calculation itself, I know you guys have that. It was actually interesting just as far as see the percentage increase. I think it was just because of the lag in time. I was expecting to see much larger increases. The large one there is fuel, which you guys see. I would say 38%, I believe, 39.44%. That was the largest item. Outside of that, not to say that they're small at all, but I guess they were just less than I would have thought they would be. The other important information, kind of what actually struck me from a larger perspective is basically recycling and actual, so the disposal information, actually seeing the tonnage being less than it was last year. That part was interesting to me, being a part of these meetings. I know that is a discussion for the citizens as far as reducing waste. Garbage being down and organics going up. That part was interesting to me. Outside of that, everything else worked out as I would expect, or worked out. It was verified for the work that Recology did. I was able to go in and verify that, and I felt comfortable with what we have for the pieces that I could check. There are, of course, a big part of this is based on disposal tonnage, and there really is not a way to go in and verify that outside of going to Recology's offices, pulling slips. It can get much more involved than I think we are prepared to do at this time. So any questions?
Yeah, I have two questions. The first one is, I think I read somewhere that the number of connections or the number of customers for the trash collection is actually higher in Algranada than it is in Montara. And that's why I kind of wonder, why is the allocation of trucks and drivers 50-50 between Algranada and Montara, even though the Algranada group has a higher number of customers? And then the second question I have is not so much a question, just an observation. I agree with you. I don't find the percentage too high. I think it's reasonable. But I did notice that in the CPI for water and sewer and trash collection services in the United States. If you take the number from July 21 to July 2022, the increase is actually 4.2%. So overall, we are kind of close to that number, especially if you consider the increase in the gasoline prices lately.
In terms of customers, by the numbers, the Granada counts 2,182, Montara 1,892. A breakout of 53.6 and 46.4% is the way that they get that. So in terms of quite a bit more, yes, it's more, but it's pretty close to 50-50.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Thanks to both Peters. Scott currently has some audio problems. Jim, would you mind jumping in and taking over for Scott until he has his computer issues sorted?
That's fine. I don't have, I wasn't able to get my agenda up running. Can you announce the next agenda item?
So, well, let me say it this way. What the staff recommendation here is to essentially receive the RVE presentation, what we did, and authorize the general manager to distribute a Prop 218 notice for a public hearing on December 1st, 2022. So that's the action that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Excuse me, sorry for interrupting, Clemens and Director Harvey. I don't know that we should take a vote until President Boyd has audio, because we will need to hear his vote.
It's just logging on to a different device, so hopefully that will work.
Yeah, so we can come back to this or wait.
I'm back.
There you are.
You're back.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. What did I miss? Sorry about that. Technical.
We were just trying to figure out how to move forward without you and didn't achieve that. So here you are. Just pick up where we were. I just stated the staff recommendation essentially is also to authorize the general manager to distribute the Prop 218 notice for the public hearing on December 1st.
All right. So the first thing I want to do is look to see, do we have any public comment? I see a hand from Lisa.
Hi, thanks. Just quickly, can I give you an update on the green waste situation at Pillar Ridge, just briefly? As you recall, I came to you in December asking if Pillar Ridge could receive green waste carts so we could participate in the program. We've always used our own cans, which is the preference of Recology. And so the committee was formed, but it did not meet. And we did. Okay, so the latest update is some of the residents received their green wheeled carts in mid-September. Previously this year, we had continued to receive service using our own cans. At the point that they delivered some of the carts, they stopped picking up any green waste from anything other than the wheeled cart. Problem is that they had required the residents to opt in, which is always a difficult and incomplete process. And even the residents who had signed in to receive the service, not all of them received carts. So now those people are not receiving any green waste service at all. And it would seem, what I would ask is if you could prevail upon Recology to restore service in our own cans until everybody here has the Recology cart. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Clemens, is that something you can reach out to Christine on?
Yeah, I'm going to look into this. I have to say I have a rather different collection of the events than Lisa. So I'm going to look into this and follow up. But let me say it this way. I've been in contact with the Pillar Ridge management, and I'm not aware of any issues with the composting services at this time. But again, we'll look into it and follow up.
Okay, thanks. We'll look forward to hearing what you learn. Do we have any other public comment? Let's go to any board discussion. If we don't have board discussion, we have a recommendation in front of us. We've received the presentation, and the board is authorizing that we the general manager is asking that we authorize distribution of the Prop 218 notice for a public hearing on December 1st. Clemens, do you need a motion, or do you just need direction from the board?
The direction from the board is fine.
So if we have concurrence, you have that direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Peter, thank you very much. I always appreciate the insights that you get by actually digging in and doing the work of looking. So that's very helpful. Thank you. Let's see. Item 3, review. Teach me to click on something. Let me scroll it down to item 3. I can't scroll. There you go. Come on. I could never know that I was in tech, that I made my living this way. Or maybe you would, I don't know. Item 3, review engineer's report on district sewer inflow and infiltration reduction efforts.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Inflow and infiltration in sewer system is always a topic that it comes up on intervals for all sewer agencies, I assume, but particularly for the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast set agencies as well. We've had some severe storm events this past winter. Sam looked at inflow and infiltration, for example, last year. Despite all of this, there's always a lot of confusion about what is inflow and infiltration, where is it coming from? So, for example, there's an automatic reaction to think, oh, it's the responsibility of the sewer agency, and I don't deny that. But sewer agencies usually have only half of their pipes or half of sewer pipes under control, meaning they own only half of pipes. The rest of the sewer pipes are privately owned laterals, which are contributing very severely to inflow and infiltration, as the experience of other agencies has shown. So we asked Pippin, our sewer engineer, to essentially help us understand and help the public understand what did this district really do in the past and is currently doing to prevent inflow and infiltration, and essentially to help smooth out or to help lower the peak flows that are coming from the inflow and infiltration that every agency is grappling with. So, Pippin, if I can hand it over to you, please. And yeah.
Okay, thank you, Clemens. And pleased to share with you tonight and to the board. So I guess I'll just start off with saying this summary report refers to sort of recent efforts. The district, what's not included in this report is all the members of SAM. And in fact, all the members in this region in the state were required or strongly encouraged by the Water Board about 15 years ago to televise their entire sewer system, inspect all the pipes as much as possible, and develop what's called a sewer system master plan, or an SSMP. or a sewer system management plan, some people call it. And the state prefers the management plan actually, because what they're referring to is how you operate the system, not just what your planning is of where the pipes are and what your capacity is, but also how you operate them on day to day and how you plan for maintenance and how you handle emergencies. So that happened with all the member agencies about 15 years ago. And so starting then, Montara did start increasing the amount of sewer mains that were being worked on. And sometime into that program, these I&I studies pointed out what Clemens just mentioned about only owning half the pipes, meaning the mains are district property, but when you work out the mathematics of all the footages in the district, about an equal footage, about an equal distance of pipe is owned by the by the private homes. So each house has a lateral. So the district started making repairs on the lower laterals during the capital projects when defects were identified. Starting in the last about 7 years ago, give or take, the district looked at a lot of agencies were implementing a point of sale inspection. So when a house is sold or a major remodel, it would trigger an event that would require the owners to video the pipeline and maybe cause replacements. So the district has a policy of doing that for major remodels and so forth, but they also found it, we looked at the different options of how to enforce on that and found it's actually cost effective with our current pipe bursting technologies to simply replace the lateral if the homeowner is willing to participate at the same time as we do the main work. So that's happening throughout the district now on every normal capital project. So with that basic background, just kind of summarize here that the district has an annual CIP that ranges about 1.4 to 1.9 million for sewer infrastructure projects. For example, we're just finishing up recently the 2021 sewer improvement project. And as I pointed out, with that, we did a number of mainline rehabilitations and we did the laterals connected to them all the way to the houses. In addition, each mainline project, we have the contractor televise further. So say the mainline project is, say it's a 4,000 foot project, we'll have the contractor televise another 5,000 or 10,000 feet of sewer main and see if we can find any additional defects. And I hope you guys can still see me. I just had a computer glitch here that's reminiscent of what Scott has going on in his system.
You're still there.
Okay, I can't see you, but if you can see me, that's fine. Okay, so other things that the staff is doing and the district is doing, working with Sam, is pretty wide ranging. So we've pointed out here that we have a capital improvement project with a sewer improvement targeted work on an annual basis. We replace private laterals when we get permission to do that with all the capital projects. That's included in the project cost, so there's no specific back charging to the residents. It's part of the sewer rate. For minor remodels, if someone does have a leak or a crack or roots, we ask them to fix it. If it's a major remodel, in most cases, the pipe is being replaced. We do, at the time we're doing the construction work and when we're doing these remodels, we do a visual inspection. Either our team does it or the SAM team does it or the district contractor to verify roof leaders are not connected into the laterals. All around town, where possible, we install sealed, during these projects, we install sealed manhole lids rather than the old style ones that have big holes in them. In some places where we haven't installed them yet, new lids, there is equipment available, plugs and various things we can use to stop up the holes in case the manhole's in a situation where a V-ditch or something on the side of the road might push water over the lid and cause it to take water on. We work as, you know, we have goals for SSO reduction in the capital projects, which mean, you know, problems, areas that have lots of roots, but we also have been focusing quite a bit on areas that are like a drainage basin. So Date Hart, for example, was an area the district has spent a lot of resources on replacing the pipelines where we know the groundwater can be high when it's raining, to try to seal all those systems, all parts of the system, to reduce the water coming in. As I mentioned already, we try to televise at least 5,000 to sometimes up to 25,000 extra feet each year. So to put that in perspective, the district is 27 miles or just under 150,000 feet of district main sewers. So in the recent few years, we've televised over 50,000 feet of sewers. And so we're a third of the way through the district again, and trying to get through that in the next few years. So based on these TV reports, if there's additional spot repairs that can be kind of low-hanging fruit where there's an obvious leak, then those individual repairs are made. The SAM staff also makes observations, seals up and replaces damaged lids and covers that might be letting rainwater in, and they're capable of performing some repairs as well. And in addition, the district has smart covers. 3 are located in different places of the district that we can watch the water levels during the rain and compare that to past rain events and see how fast the water's coming up. A big example of that this year was one of the rainstorms. Folks might remember the drainage pipes under Highway 1 near the sheriff's station were clogged, and the whole neighborhood filled up with water there. So with so much water pressure, even the best manhole lids we have in the area still allow some water to come in, and there was just tremendous pressure with the streets covered with 2 or 3 feet of water. And so for a few hours, the sanitary system did take in some rainwater during that event until those drains were able to be cleared. So that's an example of, major external event that we don't have much control over. So, these are the type of activities that have been happening for quite some time. In summary, about 20% of the district laterals have been replaced. Actually, about 30% have had some repairs made. And similar to numbers on the main line, about 18 to 20% of the pipelines are actually new. An additional 10 to 12% have had repairs made. So far, the district has repaired or rehabilitated about a third of the system. So that's a pretty big bite out of the system, considering it's just really been the last 7 to 10 years of aggressive work on this. So I think the final note here is that, we all on the coast side work towards these efforts. And we communicate with Sam quite a bit on the sewer system maintenance and these activities. And I think everyone has been struggling with these higher rain events. We've seen the rain flows have been less often, but the intensities are significantly higher. So, for example, last year we received, the last rain events we received, almost the whole year's rain, or most of what we received just came in only 3 storms. So rather than coming 2-3 inches at a time, we're seeing 5, 10, 15 inches, in these huge events, and that's putting a lot more stress on the system. So that's the overview. And if you have any specific questions, I'd like to take them.
Let's start with Peter.
I see that you say here, no roof leaders should be connected. Is there a penalty on homeowners doing that when they build a new house?
Well, it would be unlikely on a new house. The county inspects that also, and all new houses are required to have a separate cistern system. So the rain is directed underground, but it's like a special leach field just for rainwater. So where we would find this would be typically in the older homes, where it was accepted practice in the 50s, or someone connects something in accidentally, or maybe on purpose because they have a low spot they're trying to get rid of water. I don't know that the district has any specific penalty for a first offense, but if it was a repeated problem, I think the district has the power to take action.
Right.
Yeah, we have an enforcement process that can be used, but we don't have a direct fine for this.
Okay, let's go to, thank you, Peter. Let's go to Greg.
I have a number of questions, and if you'd like, I can put them in writing for answers later. I have two concerns. One is that you may be aware that last October, we only had 6 inches of clearance in the wet weather storage at the Portola pump station during that storm. And of course, Half Moon Bay refused to agree to install the 400,000 gallons that I had hoped they would and recommended. So we only installed an extra 200,000. It looks like we should have installed more. So I'm asking the district, and I don't need an answer now. Are we going to consider putting the extra 200,000 in, even though I know it's going to cost a lot more money because we didn't do it the first time? Related to that is a concern I have about the Cypress Point development. It's not just that they're going to add some more sewer flow, but if you take a look at the hydrologic reports and what they propose to do on that property with drainage ponds and so forth, there's over 150,000 of square feet of impervious surface being added there. There already are problems with the storm drains in Moss Beach. So my concern is that this development might be putting stress, as was mentioned, on manhole covers in Moss Beach or whatever, certainly Montara Creek. And I'm wondering if, one question is, what was the date of that storm that you cited, Pippin? But I'm wondering if the district has reviewed the Cypress Point application and has any concerns it would care to comment on, so we can ask for mediation and accommodations by the developer now to prevent an exacerbation of I&I in Moss Beach that might stem from this development. Then there's a bunch of other questions. Half Moon Bay and El Granada got PG&E to look at their pipes. They did cameras. You may remember the San Bruno explosion that caused people to worry about safety. So they looked for horizontally drilled gas mains that might have intruded. And I believe Montara had found one some years back. So I'm curious whether we got the benefit of PG&E doing a review of our pipes like El Granada and Half Moon Bay did. And then I'm wondering, there's some language in the memo, but there's no table of numbers. I'm wondering what the trends in the comparative percentage of I&I between Montara and the other districts is, and what percentage of the pipes we typically replace. It sounds like it's much higher. I'm wondering if that's in part because we've added over a mile of new water mains. Is that anything? No, that wouldn't have anything to do with it. So the work you've done for Big Wave and the new joiners wouldn't be related to that, would it? So I'm just curious what the cause of the big increase was. That's a lot of questions. I'll defer to how you want to handle it.
I think it's probably a good idea to send those in writing. But I know we can answer a couple of them or talk a little bit in that fashion. So for example, and let me see what Pippin can answer now. What I can tell you right now is that we don't have an application for the project. We did never received an application for the project. I don't think the project is at that state. So for example, the questions about, the square footage, infiltration, et cetera, reviewing all that costs money ultimately. So we need to be paid for that, and we need to receive that money in advance. And so again, this process has not started. What we have in front of us.
Could I just throw in a comment in the middle of what you just said? I met with CAL FIRE today, and strangely enough, they have not received payment, and they have not reviewed anything on the Cypress Point project, which astounds me because it's going before the Planning Commission in a month or two, is my understanding. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, so what we received is a referral from San Mateo County, which gives us the opportunity to respond in concept with comments if we are able to, essentially, if we are able to serve the project. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's a basic question. So again, for an engineering review, we need engineers to take a look at that, and that is going to cost money. And I think CAL FIRE is probably in the same situation as everybody else. That makes sense. Pippin, did you have any comments?
Thanks. Well, I think specifically from the stormwater runoff standpoint, that it is much, maybe Montara at the appropriate time later in the process could comment. But that is really in the jurisdiction of the county, and there are requirements for new construction to manage hard surfaces. So that should be something that should be included in their final development plans. So keep an eye out for that, and the county should be overseeing that. Specifically, new pipelines are not considered in the rehabilitation numbers, and water pipelines are a whole different subject. And I think if we dig into the flow numbers at SAM over the last years, and the last big storm events, of which are part of some of the disputes that we're all very well aware of, it's pretty clear that Montara's numbers are going down. So.
Okay, do we have any other public comments or discussion? I believe this was an informational item. You don't have anything you need from us specifically?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Pippin. Informative as always, and it's really good to hear. I don't know if you're keeping track of numbers of, I mean, it sounds like you're keeping track of laterals being repaired. I had occasion to individually repair mine to the street, so I couldn't hang on to wait for the main in the street to be worked on, so it needed attention right away. So if you can count one more lateral as being reasonably new.
Well, that's, every pipe helps.
Well, I tell you, it was a concern until it was fixed, and now it's a relief. So I'm glad to participate. All right, let's go to new business item 4, review and possible action concerning approval of purchase of 2 new Ford Ranger trucks.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So we have 2 of our fleet vehicles, 2 of our Chevy Colorados that are about 11 years old, 10, 11 years old, are in need to be replaced. And so operations staff actually looked for available vehicles. We even considered used vehicles, and looked around for suitable trucks. So first we have to, of course, wrap our minds around what is a suitable truck. And we want to go essentially, again, with the smallest available trucks. In general, one of them, however, is specifically a four-seater. We run into the situation once in a while that we are in need for a four-seater. And so that's definitely desired. I want to say that generally the availability of parts and vehicles is very limited. We used in the past a state purchasing system. So it's been a while since we bought a truck from the local Ford dealer. Here is what we're suggesting. The disadvantage from the state system has been that, the trucks essentially are coming from anywhere in California. And we've seen our share of issues with that in the past. Well, this time, again, we would like to get the trucks within a reasonable amount of time, meaning around 6 months or so. So that's why we're suggesting to purchase 2 Ford Rangers through the local Ford dealer. And we have the quotes available here. So the staff recommendation is to authorize the issuance of purchase order for the trucks, for both trucks, not to exceed $68,000. So we gave ourselves just a little bit, it's a little bit more, the $68,000 is just a tad bit more than the both quotes added together. We are still thinking, we're talking about adding some light bars on top of the vehicles. And there may be some options that aren't listed here that we actually want to add. So ultimately not to exceed $68,000 for both tracks. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm fully for that. I think that a Ford Ranger is a very reliable vehicle.
Do we have any other comments? Can we have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and a second, please. Need a second. Jim, Rick, I'll second it. So we have a motion. We have I believe that was Peter, you made the motion?
Yeah, I made the motion.
Oh, okay, Jim. And then I must have missed a second, but well, I'll just count myself as the second on this one.
Or I could be the second. You could be the first.
It's totally irregular. I believe Jim made the motion. I made the second. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Lohman? Director Lohman?
Not hearing Rick. Well, 3 is a quorum. I'm going to, for technical sake, say that the motion carries with 3 aye votes and 1 no vote due to probably technical difficulties. And the motion carries. Let's see, how about reports? Sewer Authority? Do we have anyone prepared to give us a report? Catherine is not here, so that's
The meeting last Monday, a week before Monday. The Sam, general manager, discussed the items that as Sam buys for its employees during emergencies, 24-hour call, snacks and things that are mandated to keep the staff at the plant working. So he reviewed those items that he's obtains for the staff, just as a general information item as to why the Sam buys snack bars and certain drinks for staff at certain times when they're called in for overtime or emergencies. And then that was all. There wasn't much else that happened as far as I saw. It was a pretty general meeting.
Well, they've been replacing some significant equipment. $100,000 here, $100,000 there. Pretty soon adds up to real money.
Thanks. I'll just note that yes, and that's good. It's altogether too easy to look at the plant and say it's working, when in fact it's really important to stay on top of what's wearing out and what needs maintenance. And I'm glad to see that the SAM board is getting those items approved and done. It's good to be off of the standstill. Okay, Mid-Coast Community Council. Oh, I see, Michelle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just at the end of the meeting, they were talking about the
I can't hear Michelle now. It kind of cut off halfway. Maybe it's time to blame Zoom and I can stop feeling so bad about my mess up. Michelle, we'll try to come back to you're on mute, Michelle.
Sorry, the sewer authority, they had, they're going to agendize an initiating presentation for exploring recycled water master plan for the whole coast side. Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Good. So it's up on my website. You guys can listen to it's a brief conversation that Jeremy brought up. And actually Catherine brought it up and then Jeremy spoke to it. So FYI.
Oh, thanks. Montara has had a long-standing, very active interest and participation in trying to bring recycled water to be a reality on the coast side. So we'll give it another go.
I do actually think it's a new time. The city's bought into it. CCW's bought into it. I think and then there's also have you seen the One Shoreline post that I did? Catherine helped me and Virginia Corrali Chang, they helped me find out that there was this meeting going on about One Shoreline, including our shoreline. So they're going to have a meeting.
Lost you. They're going to have a meeting. There's going to be a meeting about One Shoreline, and apparently there's an article, probably on Coastside Buzz. So let's.
Maybe
there you are. You're back.
Yeah, maybe next meeting we'll have the chat open, and I can just drop stuff in.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Mid-Coast Community Council. I'm guessing Greg might have something for us.
Yeah, we are going to need one more member for the Mid-Coast Community Council. We don't have enough people running for office to replace all the seats. So to any of you listening out there who wish to get involved in governance, I welcome you putting your name forward so we can put you up for consideration as an appointee. The council is going to be reviewing the Quarry Park Master Plan, which for some people is a pretty big deal. And I won't comment on the details. We also are working on a letter on the Cypress Point development, which is another pretty big deal, the Mid-Penn affordable housing, 71 units. You heard me speak about some of the issues. The Parks had proposed putting an audiovisual kiosk at Seal Cove to help people navigate better. and it was roundly panned by the public. Nobody wanted a 48-inch LCD screen in the woodland environment. So I was surprised to see the vehemence with which that was opposed. I'm working on some issues with Department of Public Works, including sidewalks in El Granada and unsafe situations and traffic signs near the Farallon View School in Montara. There are going to be some community participation sessions held. I think the people of Montara would be very interested to participate in what should be done near the Farallon School. And then finally, and this overlaps my earlier comments, I wrote a letter and email and spoke at the SAM meeting about the flows in December, which caused the almost overflow at the SAM plant. And I'm requesting SAM review what caused that. There's an unexplained 5 million gallon a day peak flow rate coming from somewhere. Half Moon Bay says it can't be them. They've done a modeling exercise saying they could only have contributed 7 million gallons per day peak flow rate, yet we got over 15 at the plant and about three and a quarter came from the IPS. So it wasn't coming from the IPS, it's coming from somewhere. And talking about I&I, there's something wrong, and I'm hoping Montara will support a review of Half Moon Bay's modeling analysis to see whether that was adequately done, and some investigation, which is not currently underway, of what those flows were and the threat to the electrical building that posed had that overflow not been smartly handled as it was by the SAM staff. So I think you're aware that this issue occurred, but the work that's being done right now at SAM studying groundwater and stuff in the nearby creek does not include looking for where the extra 5 million gallon a day peak flow rate came from. You know, my suspicion is it's somewhere south of the plant, but it hasn't been found. So I hope you'll pay close attention to that and put some engineering resources on working with SAM to try and identify that, because it was a near miss last December. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Greg. Do we have anything for the CSDA or LAFCO reports?
No.
All right. Attorney's report?
Thanks, President Boyd. I do have a brief report regarding some new legislation that the governor signed regarding the Brown Act remote meeting rules. It's AB 2449. It was passed and then signed into law in September. What it does is provide a separate method of allowing board members to participate remotely at meetings. It allows only a minority of the board, however, to meet remotely and only under limited circumstances, such only under circumstances for just cause and emergencies. Just cause is defined as a being sick and potentially transmitting contagious disease, having to be home, for example, and be a caregiver for a family member or a friend, and or under an emergency situation. The difference here is that under those circumstances, the board member does not have to post their location or allow public access. So their privacy and security would not be compromised. This is something that, as we all know, the pre-COVID traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules does not allow. There's other requirements as to the technical specifications that the district would have to provide in order to allow participation remotely. I mean, we're basically doing that now through Zoom. This law becomes effective in 2023. January 2023. So at that time, the options for remote meetings will be as follows. There's three. Under the emergency AB 361, which the district is currently using to conduct remote meetings, as long as there's a declared state of emergency, we can use that to have the entire board participate remotely. However, that law sunsets on January 1st, 2024. So we have one more year to be able to meet under emergency circumstances. After that, outside of declared state of emergency and after the AB 361 sunsets, we can use the AB 2449 rules that I just outlined, and a minority of board members may participate remotely without having to post their location and only under limited circumstances. And that, of course, also presumes that a majority of the board is actually meeting in person. So once we return to in-person meetings, we will have the ability for a minority of board members to participate remotely without posting their location. That law sunsets in 2026, so that will only last for 2 years. And then finally, we have the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules that allow remote participation by any board member from anywhere, as long as their location is posted and the public is allowed access to their location. And that can include a residence. That's all I have on that. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Scott, we can't hear you.
Is that everything, Christine?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any director's reports? General manager's report?
Yes, I actually have everything in the written report, but I do want to point out that we have the newsletter attached to the general manager's report. It's also up on the website and will be distributed, has been already distributed. And there's actually an item in there that the board does not know yet about. I've been talking to San Diego State since some months about the possibility to place a vertical wind profiler on our district property. A vertical wind profiler is essentially a radar that's looking straight up. A very specific instrument that San Diego State was able to pick up from England earlier this year and is now looking for a location in Northern California. They essentially located us as the preferred location to mount this. What this unit does is it's essentially a research tool and a forecast tool for atmospheric rivers. So this is essentially another set of basic data that we would receive from this instrument, similar to our NOAA weather station. This would also be a live feed that would go on our website and complement the other weather data that is on our website. We currently have our own rain gauge on our website. We also have through access to the balance site that hosts our rain gauge that provides stream gauging information for the coast side and other rain gauges in the Bay Area, for example. We also have right now actually high definition radar system on our district property for a different purpose. that is a project that is run through San Francisco State, and that is looking at ocean currents. That's not a live data feed. Similar sensors are mounted all along the bay and have been used essentially to create an app that sailors can use to look at real-time currents. They're always a little bit different in the forecasted currents. So we have that unit out here, but as far as I understand, there's no live feed. This is only accessible to essentially federal use, Coast Guard, et cetera. I'm excited about this. So this is something that the board will be able to make a decision on going forward, and I hope we'll have support here. However, some along the coast side are so excited about this prospect that this already went out and people are talking about, and that is the reason why we added the concept of this already in the newspaper, and the details hopefully you will be able to review very soon and make a decision about. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. That's super interesting. It's been great to get the sensors that we have to see how they've been used. The Ocean Currents project has even been used to attempt to help locate people lost at sea by knowing what the currents were looking like. And that's hard to know if you don't have instruments looking at it. That's pretty cool how it works. Peter, and then after Peter, Michelle.
What I was missing in your report, the general manager's report, Clemens, is what is happening with the steel plates going over 6th and Harty and the generator standing there. I saw some cement pipes that are on the side of the street. Are they going to be installed, and are the steel plates then going to be taken away?
Yeah, well, we have been hoping for this to happen much earlier, Peter. And I'm going to ask Pippin to comment here, but I'm just going to say that parts availability has been a real problem for this. So we're trying desperately to get this resolved before the next rains come. Of course, we have a current, so the steel plates are a current situation, a current solve for the problem that we ran into during the last wet weather season. So a fix is in place, but it's a temporary fix, and it's a fix that is impacting the neighborhood. So we've been in contact with them about this, but we're trying to resolve this as fast as possible. The details of this, Pippin can tell us about this. Pippin.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have another one.
Sure.
Because the idea was also that we get rid of that generating set that we are now renting.
Correct?
Yes, right.
Yes. Same question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all tied together. So the district, we set out last, I guess it was October 24, where we had the first, is that correct, Clemens? So the first issue at that station when we had one of those two rain events, we had, quite a number of inches that fell in one evening. And so Sam was impacted at a number of stations throughout the entire, not just Montara, but throughout the coast side. And so we concluded to provide a additional pumping capacity to ensure better redundancy, to ensure that we would not get any sewage into Montara Creek in the future, and which is where that drainage, I think, ultimately goes. For the second storm, immediately after that, I think we did have pump trucks on standby in case we needed it. And then we were able to implement the supplemental pumping system. And because that station is older, we were not able to connect in that pump into the existing pipeline. So the hoses were strung out there in that emergency. which is still ongoing, and it's been unable between, as Clemens pointed out, extreme difficulty in getting parts. For example, some key electrical switches that we need in order to operate the pumps. They said we're not going to get them till March next year. So we're looking for workarounds and other type of equipment that we can get sooner, that we can put in to get those operating sooner, and then we'll have to replace those at a shorter time frame in the future with the parts that we would prefer to have installed. Just those manhole barrels, if those have shown up, I'm happy to hear that they're there. I knew they were coming. It was 6 weeks just to get, after the contractor sent payment, just to get those things sent over from the factory. Normally those were available in days, and now it's, it could be a couple of months. We're trying to get a hatch built.
Right there, I saw them.
With the hatch that needs to go on the top of that, we don't even have a delivery date. In fact, it was supposed to be built in Syracuse, New York, and then the supplier switched to Florida about a week before the hurricane. So I don't even know if the Florida plant is open and functioning. So I'm waiting to hear back from the supplier if we can go back to the Syracuse, New York distributor or manufacturer. So, it's been a game of cat and mouse for months, and it's really frustrating, but it is moving forward. We have the new pumping units in hand. We have the barrels now in hand, and we have a county encroachment permit, which was another big hurdle. That took over 2 months to get. The contractor has the encroachment permit. So the wheels are moving painfully slowly on this repair, but it is moving. And so our next order of work will be to try to at least eliminate the hose so we don't have to impact all the neighbors and just keep it focused on the pump station. And then as we can get parts, as soon as we can get parts, we'll try to get them installed.
Okay, then another question. On the last page of the report, it says, replace the second pillar ridge treatment plant air compressor due to failure of new unit. Does that mean that we get a replacement free of charge?
Which report are you looking at?
Your report, your general report.
Oh, my general report.
Last page.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is the staff. This is our water staff working on the pillar ridge treatment plant. Replacing some air compressor components. So this has nothing to do with the...
It says here, replace the air compressor due to the failure of the new unit. So my question is, if the new unit fails, do we get a replacement free of charge?
I have to look into what they mean with new unit. We have a problem with the air compressor. Oh, hold on. So you're talking about the generator unit? No.
Just look at the comments on the last page of the report.
So you're talking about the general manager's report?
I'm talking about the air compressor.
Yes.
It says here, replace the pillar ridge treatment plant air compressor due to overdrawing amperage.
Yes.
Replace the second pillar ridge treatment plant air compressor due to the failure of the new unit. So my question is simply, if the new unit is failing, do we get a free of charge replacement?
Yeah, I think this is misleading. This is not the entire air compressor. These are parts of air compressors. And we're at a point where those essentially these air compressor parts are manufactured in our shop. So our guys are essentially plugging in stuff that they declare as new that fails. It's a very abrasive environment. It has to be essentially replaced once a year or so.
So these are self-made components.
Yes. Yes, and it's not the entire air compressor. It's essentially what the air compressor drives, so on.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Michelle, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a little point about the wind profiler. The reason why I found out about it was I was listening to a Coastside Fire Protection District meeting, and they are very excited about the wind profiler because it's going to help them with the atmospheric rivers, which will help them with disaster control. So just want to let you guys know what a great job you're doing.
That's great.
Thank you, Michelle. And of course, I'm going to, it would help us understand what's coming to potentially protect our sewer systems, for example. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's see. That is the end of our agenda. Unless we have something to capture for our future agenda, but you can always reach out to me and Clemens to request things on the agenda as well. We are going to recess in a moment and say thank you and goodbye to all of our members of the public. Before we go, I'm just going to mention that we're going to have a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation with Half Moon Bay suing Montara and Granada and Sam. We're going to have a conference with legal counsel, one potential case, anticipated litigation, and then a conference with real property negotiators for the property 770 Hart Street here in Montara. If we take any action, we'll report that out after closed session. With that, our thanks to the members of the public and to Peter and Pippin, Michelle, Greg, thank you for being here. And we're going to take a 5-minute recess and come back at, let's call it 9:03.